And we're live. How's it going, guys? Welcome back for another PGA DFS live stream. It's time for the Hero World Challenge, and I am excited to be back and covering golf. Last week it didn't quite feel right, but now with some GPPs, some Draftkings contests, Jock Market to take down this week, which we're going to be talking about for the first time here in the channel. Overall, really excited for this event. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about the weather for this weekend. Of course, a recap of some of our key stats for analysis, and then hop through the entire player pool because there's only 20 guys teeing it up this week, going to essentially be able to cover everyone in the field. So with that being said, let's hop right into the weather here. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, and you guys can see the weather that we have for tomorrow. So you guys can see up here towards the top at 11 a.m. Going to be starting off as pretty decent weather, mid 70s, mid 80s, must be nice down there in the Bahamas, but also relatively no wind, just 6 to 8 mile an hour wind gusts. Down towards the afternoon, they'll be finishing up right around 3, 4 in the afternoon. A little bit more wind, but that shouldn't really be anything to worry about. I mean, this is an island golf course. It is designed to have relatively high winds pretty much all the time anyways. So in terms of the weather, at least tomorrow, not much to speak of. Now we can go ahead and look at Friday. Anything past Friday is probably just a little bit too far into the future. The weather reports aren't even accurate for tomorrow half the time. But if we take a look at Friday, similar story, 10 to 12 miles an hour in the morning. So perhaps a little bit more windy on Friday, but in the afternoon, relatively similar. It's not like it's going up to 15 to 25 mile an hour winds. That's when we tend to get some issues on the course. I'm expecting some relatively good scores this year, right around what we usually see for the Hero World Challenge. A winner somewhere between maybe 18 and 22 under par. If I had to take a guess, if I had to bet on a prop for the winning score this week, I would take 19 under par personally. But anywhere in that range, you really can't go wrong. What we'll do now is we'll go over a quick recap of some of our key stats from what we saw earlier on in the week. Not much has really changed. This is a golf course that's relatively well-rounded. You're not going to get a ton of hazards coming into play off the tee. Driving accuracy, not the biggest deal here. But distance, though, also not a golf course that prioritizes distance. Some of the shorter hitters on tour can definitely compete here. Some of the fairway finders have definitely found themselves in the winner's circle. I mean, just check out the last winner, Henrik Stenson. Not somebody that's known for his length by any means, but at the same time, because the fairways aren't really, a priority to hit here, distance is rewarded. Approach play is obviously the most important stat here. This is definitely a second shot golf course. And the reason why I say that this is a well-rounded venue is that it's got, at least from off the tee in, it's got penalties all over the place, whether it's around the green, whether it's some undulation on the greens themselves, or even some just natural areas around the greens that penalize bad approach shots. So really, if players are going to get into trouble here at the Hero World Challenge at Albany, it's going to be with their approach play. So as a result, really just trying to take some of the best ball strikers in the world. So with that being said, let's hop right into the player pool. And like I said, we can pretty much touch on every golfer because there's only 20 guys playing this week. And something that's in addition to my projections this week are the Jock Market target price over here. If you guys have seen some of the NBA content I'm putting out this week, Jock Market is something that I'm starting to get a little bit more into, especially from NBA, where the chalk is just so chalky every single night. It seems like in NBA, all people are doing are just going onto their optimizer, optimizing the optimal lineup and playing them. They're not putting any thought into it, which makes, winning GPPs a little bit easier. You're able to leverage off that. In terms of cash, it makes it borderline unplayable. It's just not the most pleasant experience from night to night. It's almost like a 2-on-2 is really determining your cash lineup rather than a conglomeration of 8 different picks. And if I wanted to play 2-on-2s, I'd go play tiers or something like that. I wouldn't be playing cash. Rant aside, though, Jock Market gives us a place to play DFS that isn't really contingent on what the rest of the field is thinking. If you guys are new to it, it's where you buy stocks and invest in players. So obviously, the better a player does, the more they're going to get paid out. Every slate is different. Depending on the amount of people in the field or the amount of people playing on a certain night in the NBA, they set the payouts a little bit differently. The beauty with this field is because there's only 20 players, the payouts are really top heavy. Essentially, as soon as you get down to like 15 or 16 on the leaderboard, you're talking about $2 or $3 return for share. Right around, the low teens, you're talking around $6, $7 return for share, all the way up to $25 for whoever finishes in first place. That means that this market is giving you a really high floor. I think it makes a lot of the guys at the bottom of the board really attractive because they're likely to go for $3, maybe $4 at the very most. It could very well just, give you a middling performance, finish 7th or 8th or something like that, and return you like $6 profit a share. So I really like the jock market this week. What this target price is what I'm targeting them in the IPO phase at. So if they're coming in at a bid lower than what I have them at there, I see inherent value there, expected value, and I will be placing bids on them. So that ends at 9 o'clock tonight for any of you that are interested. Just wanted to go ahead and share what this column over here was. Everything else, what we're used to seeing here on the channel, course fit ranking, of course, how I feel that they fit this golf course, Albany. Again, a golf course that really prioritizes your approach play. Off the tee is definitely helpful. And same thing with shots gained putting on Bermuda. Recent form over here is how they played over their last 24 rounds. So taking a look at essentially the same numbers we're using for course fit, but just over a 24 round period. So that way we're not just looking at who has the best shots gained total over those 24 rounds, but also the shots gained in the right categories. So that's how I do my recent form rank. Shots gained putting Bermuda is pretty self-explanatory. And projected ownership, we'll go ahead and say this, these numbers might look a little bit high, but because we only have 20 players in the field, that means that the average ownership per player is 30%. We take 600%. We get 6 positions for DFS golf, 100% per position. That is 600. So just because somebody's 43% owned, that's like them being 15 to 16% owned week in and week out. It's not really anything crazy. Also, somebody that's down here, 13% owned is way, way lower than that would seem in most weeks. So make sure you guys go ahead and keep that in mind. With that being said, my player pool is relatively condensed this week. I am only playing one lineup. You can see that there's more than 6 people put down as yeses. The reason for that, I don't want to give you my lineup. First and foremost, that's why we're doing that. But moreover than that, I mean, a lot of people out there are playing, 20 maxes, 3 maxes, that kind of thing. And these are the players that I would focus on for building a core. If you're playing 150 max, I think you should have every player in this field, all 20 in your player pool. Obviously, just more emphasis around the guys that I have as a yes. But yes, my lineup of 6 players is taken from this group of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 players, right? So wait, I did not count there. I can't count right now, guys. I'm so sorry. Of 11 players. So obviously 5 of them are not in my player pool there, but are people that I would consider otherwise. Let's start off with Colin Morkalla. If you guys saw the core plays video, this is essentially a perfect course fit for him. He's the best iron player in the world. This is a golf course that prioritizes iron play. He's got the around the green play to save himself if he needs to. And I'd say if anything, if he struggles, it's going to be with the putter. We know that. But at the same time, Morkalla, even when he doesn't have the flat stick, presents a very high floor. So whether it's on the jock market, whether it's in DFS, that is something that I like to try and target. Somebody that will be in my lineup of 6 people, I'll at least give you that one. Justin Thomas, also somebody I considered placing a bet on this week. Colin Morkalla and Justin Thomas did not make my betting card, believe it or not. A lot of it just came down to the pricing. I mean, at 7 and 8 to 1, that's really a lot to ask for. I ended up going to Xander Schauffele on my betting card. Also ended up going to Webb Simpson and Matt Fitzpatrick. I have a video out on that. So if you guys want to see my full explanations there, they're on the channel, but all of them I think have a much better chance to win than what their odds imply. Going a little bit further down the board, you guys know I like Xander. In my lineup of 6, I guess I'll give you a second one there. If I put an outright bet on him, I mean, that's a pretty safe pick that he'd be in my lineup. But $8,700, he's completely mispriced. Comes in as a top 5 course fit and recent form ranking. He's a good putter on Bermuda. He's a well-rounded game, exactly what you need for a course like Albany. That's going to test you all over. Everything points to Xander Schauffele having a good week. Everyone in the industry has bet him this week. I was one of the first ones to actually go out and put him on my official betting card out on Twitter. And today, from this morning, I think I've seen him on at least 20 other betting cards. So if Xander Schauffele ends up winning this week at 14 to 1, I got him at 12 to 1. His number actually got better overnight. Maybe that's why so many people jumped onto him. He's going to have an absolutely insane week, or at least the community is. We're going to make a lot of money all together. Jordan Spieth, nobody believes in him this week. So this 30% number might actually be a little bit high. He's not coming in with the best form, but again, it's only been a 2 or 3 event stretch where we've seen him struggle, most notably at the Tour Championship. I think people are putting a little bit too much stock into that slump. Any other golfer on a 2 to 3 event stretch of bad golf, would give a pass to. The only reason that people are looking into it a little bit more is because it's Jordan Spieth. He was so bad for a year and a half, 2 years. People are scared that he's backing himself into that kind of form again. As a Jordan Spieth fan myself, I sure as hell hope that's not what's happening, but I don't see that happening, right? people are going to have bad stretches of golf, even if they have their form together. And just to go ahead and confirm that, I went back and looked at his superior stretch of golf, where he went on that insane run of golf of just winning every single major, essentially. He still had stretches of 2 to 3 events where he was losing on approach. This isn't something that has just came out of nowhere. This isn't a massive red flag or anything like that. Just like any other player in the world, you're going to lose your swing from time to time. The fact that he's been at home, obviously just had the child, probably not as focused on golf. That might be exactly what he needs to reboot himself. So I am going to be in on Jordan Spieth. You're not going to find many weeks, frankly, where I'm off of him. He's one of my favorite golfers in the world. He brings a skill set to the table where if he has his approach play, he's really hard to beat. Borderline unbeatable when he's putting as well. Sam Burns is also somebody that the community has just bought in on all over the place, myself included. I'm quoted as saying, I think this is a top 10 player in the world, even at his current state. It will be in the top 10 in the official World Golf rankings by the end of this year. So it's $7,500. I don't hate going to him. He's a top 2 course fit ranking, top fit in terms of recent form. He's a great putter on Bermuda. I'd classify him as a prolific putter on Bermuda at this point. Really, just like Xander Schauffele, there's nothing we can say about his fit here that really holds him back. Somebody that I'm definitely investing in heavily this week. Abraham Ancer, I do think that he's a sneaky good course fit here. Is okay enough off the tee to get by. Again, we've seen some of the shorter hitters on tour. Some of the fairway finders have success here at the Hero World Challenge, as long as they're good on approach. And if there's anything that Abraham Ancer really distanced himself from the field with, it is that approach play. So I like to see that a lot here. He's a sneaky course fit. Daniel Berger is also somebody that I'm investing in. Coming in a little bit lower owned than he should be. A lot of that's because we haven't seen him since the Tour Championship. But good on him to go ahead and take a break. Perhaps this is another extension of that break. Again, hasn't played in the fall, has no intentions of playing, at least until the Tournament of Champions. He's somebody, though, who has a great course fit here. He's an extremely high upside player. And again, not coming in with high ownership. So if you're going to take a flyer in this range, I'm definitely somebody that I'm considering. Webb Simpson and Matt Fitzpatrick, I have an outright bet on both of these guys. Both good course fits here. And, the approach play specifically with Webb has been insane of late. He gained over 9 strokes on approach last time out at the RSM Classic, over 8 strokes on approach at the Wyndham Championship. If he can figure out the putter, the guy is going to be an absolute menace out here. So really like him in this matchup. Same thing with Matt Fitzpatrick. He's just perennially overrated. Sorry, not overrated, underrated. Somebody who gains a lot more strokes off the tee than people give him credit for. He's a lot more consistent on approach than people would imagine. And I guess people give him the credit around the green and on the greens. Everyone knows of him as, a short game specialist, but that's not all that Matt Fitzpatrick is. He's the best European Tour player in the world. And I expect at some point of his career for him to be a top 10 player on the PGA Tour. Maybe not on the official World Golf rankings. He might not ascend to quite that high. But I see him as, one of the better players going forward. He's young. He's going to be here for quite some time. And quite frankly, it's just a matter of time before he breaks out in a big way. He has all the tools you're looking for here at Albany, gains across all 4 major statistical categories. And if you compare his shots gained metrics to Xander Schauffele's, they are awfully similar. The only category where he really distances himself, where it's more than a 0.15 shots gained difference, is on approach, where Xander's closer to half a stroke gained per round. Fitzpatrick's closer to a third of a shot gained per round. If he can improve in that category, he's going to be an absolute menace out here. So really like him. If he brings the irons this week, that's why I have an outright bet on him. I think he can go ahead and take it down. And something to be said for some of these guys towards the bottom of the board is they have significantly more motivation than the guys at the top. I mean, this is a true charity event. The dispersion between last place and first place in terms of payout is $900,000. The dispersion between 8th place and last place is just $500,000. So a lot of the guys that are here, that are less acclaimed, a Matt Fitzpatrick, a Patrick Reed, Harris English, even a Terrell Hatton, they have the motivation to go out there, get those world ranking points, but also that check. $1 million means a lot more to some of those players than it does Rory McIlroy. I can piss that out of, any other day. But at the same time, so I am targeting them. Again, they have more motivation. And the talent gap isn't really large. I mean, these are 20 to the 30s in terms of their official World Golf rankings. These are the best players in the world. From a shots gained perspective, you're talking about maybe a 0.1 or 0.2 shots gained per round difference for their careers, which is essentially nothing over 4 rounds. It's 1 stroke over 4 rounds. So in any given Sunday or even any given week, A lot of these guys towards the quote unquote bottom of the board could be the top guy. So I'm definitely trying to leave salary on the table. I'm not going to go ahead and tell you how much I'm leaving in my lineup, but it's a significant portion of salary I'm leaving on the table. Really comes down to the fact that I expect these guys to be more motivated. And when we have such a condensed field, you have to get different. You have to try and differentiate yourself. Getting leverage in terms of ownership isn't really possible. So you have to try and get unique with your lineup construction. So that's what I'm doing this week. Let's touch on these guys at the bottom of the board because they're also very well in play this week. Patrick Reed, like I said, coming in with a lot of motivation. If there's anybody in the world that cares about their world ranking, in money in general, it's Patrick Reed. The guy is borderline obsessed with it. I don't know if you've seen the, use golf facts Twitter kind of thing. The guy's always talking about how he should be a top 5 player in the world. And this is the kind of event where if you go out and win, you get a ton of world ranking points. I believe Colin Morkalla can go from 2nd to 1st in the world golf ranking just based on this tournament alone if he wins. So big deal there. Lots of points to go around. And I expect Patrick Reed to be fully, let's say, engaged as a result. Hopefully you guys know out there what I mean by that. A Harris English at $6,200. You might pull a farmer's insurance open kind of thing again. That's what I'm saying. But Harris English there at $6,200. He's also an X factor I like going to. A little bit unheralded of a player, a little bit less of a superstar than a lot of the other people in this field. But comes in with a good course fit. He's definitely long enough to take this place apart. He's definitely solid enough on approach. And a Bermuda grass specialist, we'd say, gaining nearly half a stroke per round on Bermuda. So I think you could do a whole lot worse. I haven't projected higher than people like Patrick Reed, Justin Rhodes, and Henrik Stenson. I have Henrik Stenson at 3.75x. Probably the only player, if I was 150 maxing, that I wouldn't play would be Henrik Stenson. Just go ahead and put that on the record. I'm not 150 maxing this week. First time in probably a year that I'm not 150 maxing. Just not thrilled about a 20-player field. Let's just say that. But that's it for the player pool there. Let's go ahead and talk about some game theory notes before we get out of here. And I'll remind you, if you have any questions or players you want me to touch on, maybe you guys are joining in late, go ahead and let me know down in the chat. So in general, guys, like I mentioned before, we're looking for players that are good on approach. And if you're playing in a GPP, you definitely want to be leaving salary on the table. Again, I don't want to tell you exactly how much I'm leaving on the table, but it's more than $2,000. I think you can leave the whole way up to maybe $5,000 or even $6,000 on the table and still make extremely competitive lineups. I do like trying to get somebody in this $9,000 plus range. I do think that a winner comes from this range, maybe from Bryson DeChambeau up more than half the time. So that should definitely be notable. You should probably be taking somebody up there. But at the same time, the difference between people like, a Harris English at $6,200 and maybe even Scotty Scheffler up here at $7,800 is minimal, if anything. In fact, I think Harris English is a better player for this golf course than Scotty Scheffler. So if that gives you any idea of the type of lineup constructions you guys should be looking at, I'm going to be mixing a ton of Webb Simpson and Matt Fitzpatrick. Again, I have outright bets on them to win. So it's going to make my lineup construction relatively easy to put together. Essentially, I could play whoever the hell I want this week. And that's the way that I'm taking this on, guys. So again, my betting card this week, I have an outright bet already on Xander. I have one on Patrick Reed. I added that this morning. I have a bet on Webb and Matt Fitzpatrick. And my bonus pick this week, I also have the top Euro bet on Matt Fitzpatrick. There's only 5 Euros in the field. The only real competition I see for him, because a lot of these other guys down low, I don't really see being a factor, is Rory McIlroy. And McIlroy's lost on approach in 5 straight weeks. And this is a golf course where you have to be good with your approach play. Again, like I said, all of the penalties here are around the green. That is not going to bode well for McIlroy. I've actually bet a ton of matchups against Rory. A couple of the matchups I already had on my card were Abraham Answer over Bryson, which I already talked about a little bit on the channel. Who else did I had? I had Fitzpatrick, I believe. I forget who Fitzpatrick was over, but I have Fitzpatrick in a matchup. I had Patrick Reed over Brooks Koepka, and I have Daniel Berger in a matchup as well. So that's all I've got for this week, guys. If you're watching this on replay, you can leave any questions down in the chat, and I'll get to them when I see them. But good luck putting all of your lineups together here this week, guys. Make sure to leave salary on the table if you're playing in any type of a GPP. And if you're playing in cash, just take the 6 golfers that you like this week, the 6 that you want to root for this week. To be honest, all the differences between these players are minimal, right? I'm trying to nitpick to try and take it down to 11 to 12 players, but really it's a wide open field this week. I'm trying to just find spots of value. I am focusing a little bit more on the jock market. And actually, I'll go ahead and let's talk a little bit about the jock market, because I know I talked a little bit about it to start. This is where I'm factoring in most of my exposure this week, let's say. A majority of my dollars this week are on the jock market, not on DraftKings. And really, it's because the field is so condensed. Like I mentioned, I think anyone in this field could go out and win this week, except for Henrik Stenson, and I wouldn't be surprised. Justin Rose might be a little bit surprising, but aside from those two, literally anyone else in the field could go ahead and win. So I'm targeting in the jock market because we can take players on an individual basis and try and find expected value. So again, these target prices over here are what I'm willing to pay for each player. Somebody like a Bryson DeChambeau that I don't think is a good course fit, that I frankly think is in bad form, a lot cheaper. I'd only spend $6 on him as opposed to I'd spend for somebody like Xander, I'd spend up to $8 on him, even though he's farther down on the board. So make sure you guys go ahead and keep that in mind. A couple of guys that really stand out to me on this slate. I really like Webb Simpson. I expect him to come in right around $5. I have him projected for returning right around $7 a profit. So might even go up to closer to $6 for what I'll pay for him. But he stands out as somebody I really like. Matt Fitzpatrick as well. Again, I have an outright bet on him. Sam Burns is going to be extremely popular. I expect him to come in well over $7.50. So probably not somebody I'm going to be investing in. If for some reason he comes in lower than that, I'll be all over him. But everyone in the community wants some exposure to Sam Burns this week, and I expect him to be relatively popular. Same thing with Xander Schauffele. You can see I'd be willing to spend up to $8 for him, but I expect him to crack well over $9 on this slate. So really, we just, if you guys haven't played on Jock Market before, I highly recommend you guys go ahead and do so. It's going to come down to where the bids come in, right? If Jordan Spieth's coming in at $5.50, even though he's not one of my quote unquote core picks this week, I'm going to be all over him. If Rory McIlroy's coming in at $6.50, even though I think he's in terrible form, I'm going to be all over him, right? So it all depends on the prices here. That's why I like the jock market a lot more, because as long as you're getting your projections down right, as long as you're setting these target prices correctly, it's relatively easy to profit. So just want to go ahead and cover that for you guys. Until next time, good luck with all of your lineups for this week, and see you.